I just remember feeling this massive sense of despair. And my entire life, and this is probably the long-winded answer to the first question that you gave me, changed with one 5-second decision. And now what my job is I teach people around the world the power and the science behind making 5-second decisions. And if you are paying attention, you will start to notice that there's a 5-second window for all of us. There's a 5-second window between the moment that your inner wisdom, your instincts, your second brain, your gut, whatever you want to call it, all of that unique power that's in you, that comes from your DNA, that comes from your life experiences, that comes from everything that you've learned in your life, situational intelligence, all of that, when it speaks to you and tells you to move, to speak, to take some form of action, you only got 5 seconds to move before your mind will talk you out of it.
Right, and you call it the emergency brake, right?
Yes, so what we do is we tend to pull the emergency brake because your mind is designed to do 3 things. Your mind, by design, does just 3 things. It basically regulates your body to keep you alive. It also, when you're sleeping, half of your mind shuts down and the other half catalogs everything that happened to you today so you can have memories. And the third thing that your mind does is it protects your ass. And the main way that it does that is it does that by magnifying risk. Magnifies any situation or any conversation. And so, what happened for me is I realized as my life was circling the drain and we're facing bankruptcy and Chris is on the couch, this was not the situation that I wanted. I didn't want my life to end in divorce. I didn't want to be in financial ruin. I didn't want to be depressed. I didn't want to be anxious. And here's the truly screwed up thing. I knew what to do to fix it. See, this is the trap that most of us are in. Most of us know what we could do to change things for the better. And we spend our time and our energy talking ourselves out of doing those things. And the other thing that I convince people of, because this is so true, it's the littlest stuff. The little things make all the difference. And I could spend hours with you explaining the science of confidence and explaining the science of risk and explaining the science behind courage and explaining habit loops and how they get encoded in your brain. You don't need to know any of that because you're not applying for a PhD in psychology. I have done the work, and what I know is that true change comes down to 5-second windows. That moment that you know you need to do something that feels slightly uncomfortable, and your resignation, your excuses, your self-doubt start cranking up in your head, you gotta move. You have to move. And so what happened for me is I invented a hack, a brain hack. It's the stupidest thing in the world. And it turns out that it's actually tremendously profound and powerful at a neurological level and at a scientific and a psychological level. When I invented it, I had no clue what I had invented. And it took me about 3 years from the moment that I invented it to actually realize that, holy shit, I think I've discovered the secret to changing anything.
And what was it?
So I called it the 5-second rule because I never intended to talk about it. It was a cheat to beat the alarm clock. Here's how it goes. The alarm rings in the morning. Most of us don't want to get out of bed, right? But we know we should. So I would go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The moment the alarm rang, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just like NASA, what they do, they count down to launch a rocket ship. And the counting backwards kind of shut my mind off. And then suddenly at 1, I would stand up. And I would use this every single morning to get out of bed. And 9 years later, I still use it every single morning to get out of bed. I think some behavior you can learn and automate, other stuff that you don't like doing, you're gonna always have to push yourself. That's just how it is. And I noticed 2 things as I started to use it. I noticed that window where I'd be lying in bed and I'd have the knowledge that I should get up, but in my body I wouldn't feel it. And as I lied in bed, and you can try this tomorrow morning, set your alarm early, earlier than you normally do, and watch what happens. The alarm will go off and your mind knows that you said you would get up. Your mind has that wisdom, your gut has that wisdom. It's holding on to it, and then it starts to kind of nudge you with a little guilt. And then what'll happen is all of a sudden you'll start talking yourself out of doing the thing you said you would do.
Yeah, it's too cold, or I'm too tired, or...
And it happens in less than 5 seconds. And so what I know is that those are 2 different parts of your brain going. at once. And if you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you interrupt the habit of self-doubt and the habit of talking yourself out of it and shutting down the part of the brain that actually minimizes your power, and you awaken the part of the brain that is active in functional MRIs when you're trying to change. And so all you need to know to change anything is A, you're never going to feel like it. You're never going to feel ready to start that business. You're never going to feel ready to have that hard conversation. You're never going to feel like getting out of bed. You're never going to feel like it's a good idea to apply for that promotion. We're designed to stay comfortable and safe. So if you know that you're A, never going to feel like it, and B, that no one's coming, it's up to you. You're not a kid anymore. I'm dead serious about this. Like so many of you are waiting to be picked. By who? Are you making the most of your life? And the answer is yes, if you pay attention to what you do in 5-second windows. Are you the kind of person that when your instincts come alive and they want to nudge you to go talk to that cute gal across the way or raise your hand in a meeting and share that idea? Are you the kind of person that pushes yourself to step into that? Or do you pull back? That's the power of a 5-second decision, because you can't choose how you feel. You can't. Yeah, maybe you can go and become a Buddhist monk and meditate for 4 months and get full control of your physiology, and yeah, technically you can control how you feel, but you and I can't. We got a job, you got kids you got to raise. You can't, that's not possible. So you can do something else. You can actually disregard your feelings. You can become the kind of person that is so in tune with the values that you have and what you actually want, that when feelings rise up, you can choose to act however you want despite them. Even if you're tired, you can still go to the gym. Even if you're annoyed with your spouse, you can still speak in a manner that's loving. Even if you don't feel like doing that hard work, you can still push yourself to do it. Your feelings aren't a choice. Your behavior and your thoughts are always a choice.
Yeah, so is this probably in the category of emotional intelligence, yeah?
I think it's both emotional intelligence and it is the skill that nobody practices, which is self-monitoring. So the greatest capacity, I believe, in the next 10 years for people, particularly as technology accelerates, is do you have the ability to focus on what matters, and do you have control over your thoughts and actions? And so, emotional intelligence, yes. I tend to think about emotional intelligence more about reading other people and kind of understanding who you are and how you are. This, to me, took it a step further, because I was always a big EQ person and the Emotional Intelligence 2.0 book and loved that stuff, even when my life was in a train wreck. Had no idea how to apply it. And, that's the other thing, is that at the end of the day, what's missing for most of us is tools. So, a lot of people that mainline personal development content have been reading about making changes for 10 years, but they don't do it.
How did you get out of that train wreck, by the way?
The 5-second rule.
So, but you can't take those 5 seconds to the bank, right?
Oh, yes, you can.
So how'd you do it? Break it down.
What are you going to do? What would you do if you had a restaurant that was failing?
Probably figure out how to cut bait, or sell the assets,
Yes.
or pivot, or flip it, or
Yes.
doing something
Yes,
else.
and all those things require you to have conversations. They require you to do research. They require you to walk into a bank. They require you to renegotiate things with your landlord. You have the answers up here. Do you have the courage and the tool to push yourself to do those things that are terrifying? That it's easier to tell yourself, oh, that's not going to work, so I might as well not even try it. You have no idea. Yes. And so what happened is, once I started using it to get out of bed on time, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up, I started to notice, holy cow, all day long there are these 5-second windows where I know what I should be doing. Maybe I should use this stupid thing to take control of my head and push myself to do those things too. And so I went from sleeping in and hitting the snooze alarm 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a day, to getting up on time, getting to the gym, not having 4 Manhattans a night, speaking to Chris differently. Instead of complaining about the fact that I had lost this television show with Fox, actually picking up the phone and cold calling for auditions, something that I was terrified to do. And slowly but surely, because I was changing myself 5 seconds at a time, making decisions that scared me, making decisions that I was convinced weren't going to work. I was doing it anyway. I started to change. I became the kind of person that stopped thinking about stuff and complaining about stuff, and I became the kind of person that I always had wanted to be, the kind of person that makes things happen. I saw myself changing. And what happens is, you can follow anybody's step-by-step program. You can, and it might work. Most of them do. Every diet will work. The problem is we don't go internal first. You cannot change your life unless you go inside first, you figure out who you are, what your own wisdom is telling you to do, and you start to actually believe it and follow it. Because if you don't develop simply the ability to get up when you said you would, to eat what you said you would, to exercise because you said you would, to talk in a way to your kids that's patient because you said you would, you will never have the self-confidence to succeed in any environment. You won't.